Welcome to a surprise edition of Dolphins In Depth. I'm your host, Miami Herald columnist Omar Kelly. And joining me right now, surprise, surprise, is my former All Dolphins podcast colleague, Alain Poupart. Surprise the people. Say hello to the people, Alain.
Hello to the people.
They asked for a reunion. Barry is under the weather, and Isaiah is, I believe, partying in Philadelphia, celebrating his championship. If Dolphin fans ever, got one, I'm sure people would fly in to participate in the parade. Isaiah is a Delaware native, which they claim Philadelphia, so they're celebrating. He's in the streets, running the streets of Philadelphia. So that brings me you, and I owe you an All Dolphins appearance. But right now, this is an important episode because we all expected the Miami Dolphins to start purging their roster as they do annually, which is part of when you do bad business. You start to, you eventually have to clear some salary cap. They cut today 3 players on Valentine's Day. It's a bloody Valentine's Day, Poupart. How heartless can you be to fire people on Valentine's Day? Raheem Mostert and Durham Smythe. I think 2 players who they both knew they were probably on the chopping block in terms of where they were with the team, their status, the salary cap, the team salary situation. But the surprise release to me was cornerback Kendall Fuller. Obviously, he suffered a knee injury last year, suffered 2 concussions last year, but his play was pretty solid. I don't know where he was going to be from a rehab standpoint, but the Dolphins basically said we would rather the money than the player, Poupart. Does it make sense to you?
The weird part about that one is they didn't make it a post-June 1, which, mind you, doesn't help them get under the cap on March 12th, but they would have created a lot more cap savings. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it would have been 5.6 had they made it a post-June 1. Right
Maybe
now, they're only
saving those June 1st releases. You ever think about that?
Bradley Chubb would be one. We're thinking Bradley Chubb and Teron Armstead? Because they're the 2 guys.
No. Well, it certainly benefits you when you have the leverage out there. Hey, you don't want to be shaken down. Okay. You might get that June 1st cut. Because I believe Teron, if you know the business of the NFL, Teron has a little bit of leverage. I think he's got a lot of leverage. From one, they're going to be replenishing the offensive line with younger players. They need a veteran player to show them the way. I really can't name you a veteran player on the team who can show them the way right now. Oh, can you? Maybe Austin Jackson.
Calais Campbell. Oh, wait a second. He's a free agent.
No, I'm talking about a veteran offensive lineman in the room.
Oh, Austin Jackson's 25 years old. So sorry. I mean, he's been around a while, but still really young. So no.
Yeah.
Around 4 maybe.
See, that's why I think you got to save those June 1st release. That there is one player, and we have discussed this previously, that I think is staring there at you as a June 1st release. You want to create some cap space. That Bradley Chubb contract is sitting there like a big fat pumpkin.
But they're allowed 2 per year, and then so unless you're making Teron Armstead your second post June 1 cut, again they could have saved more money, not a ton, but more money making Kendall Fuller a post June 1.
I think it's important to save at least one of your June 1st cuts, just in case Tyreek acts up a little bit. I'm just saying, just thinking out the box. But let's get to some of these releases. Obviously, Kendall Fuller, they could have kept more cap space. I'm a little bit more concerned with the void that it creates on the roster because right now that would elevate Cam Smith and Storm. Yeah. Look at that face. Look at that face. You see the face you just made? And Storm Duck. And
don't forget Ethan Bonner.
Sure, they forgot about him all season. Yes, and all 3 are just okay. Nobody that I'm really want to put opposite Jalen Ramsey, who's going to be significantly targeted. Kader Kohu is a restricted free agent. You're going to have to probably give him an original round tender to come back to the team. But let's just say for poops and giggles. Get it? Poops and giggles. Somebody puts out a respectable deal and offer for Kader that you do not match. because you gave him an original round tender instead of a second round tender. That basically leaves cornerback as a tremendously exposed position. But now I also say that knowing that Kendall Fuller suffered his knee injury in December, who knows if he would have been back in 9 months, 10 months, a year. I believe there should be some injury protection in his contract. I'm not 100% sure. Would have to look through the fine point. But generally, when you injure a player, if he does not get employed, you are responsible for rehabbing that player to get back to NFL shape. I don't know where Kendall is. The Durham Smythe release, I'm not necessarily certain that one way or the other, he was a starter, but he was the third tight end. He was clearly behind Julian. What is Julian's name again?
Oh, my Lord. He's not even an undrafted rookie free agent. You still don't remember Julian Hill's last name?
Oh, there you go. Julian Hill. I know him as Julian. Julian, I know him as the guy who got a lot of penalties. He was clearly entrenched behind Julian and Jonnu Smith. I believe they signed Hayden Rucci, who was a young guy that they had a lot of upside in. He signed a futures contract. That really doesn't mean anything to me.
Tanner Connor.
Oh, yeah, Tanner Connor, who suffered it. Yeah, they love Tanner Connor.
Do they, though?
He should be an exclusive rights free. I'm not sure. Anyway, doesn't matter.
He's under contract.
Yeah. Were you surprised by Durham? And he's the longest tenured Dolphin.
He was tied with Jason Sanders, who now has the distinction by himself. No, I wasn't surprised because it's an easy way to save some salary cap space. And the dude, I just did a story for it on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, where his snap count, he played like 78% of the snaps in 2023, was down to 38% last year. Complete non-factor. Didn't play well either.
No,
there were some penalties. There were some drops. So there's no reason to keep him around again at whatever number he was. And it wasn't. It's a cap savings of 2.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Why not do it when the guy's become a non-factor?
Yeah, just definitely why not do it when the guy has become a non-factor. Altogether, the team saved $8 million in cap space. They're projected to be about $12 million over the cap right now. You add that 8 in there, so you got basically $4 million. You can get that up with Teron Armstead one way or the other. The question is, how are you going to create more cap space? Because as we know, this is a desperate season, desperate team. They've got to rebuild the entire roster back. You're going to need probably about $30-40 million in cap space to do that conservatively, especially when you're basically a win or everybody's fired situation, which I'm not even pretending like, they're not in that. So but also, are you going to have to overpay to convince people to come into this desperate situation?
Or you're going to do what you did last year, which was a whole bunch of one-year contracts for not top-tier free agents, but I don't think they're signing top-tier free agents anyway, because I don't know if they're going to be able to create that much space with the number of holes that they have. Remember, they have 26 pending UFAs. Now you got 3 veterans who are cut. That's 29 players you have to replace. There's only so much.
Yeah, man, you got 10 draft picks. All 10 of them are going to make the team, and don't forget the 2 undrafted rookies. That's 12 right there.
There you go.
Right there, Poupart. Now, is it going to make you a better team? I don't know. Raheem Mostert. That guy probably had the best season in Dolphins history for a Dolphins tailback. You could argue Ricky Williams.
Not close. Sorry.
21 touchdowns, not close.
1,853 yards.
Well, that's because they didn't have a quarterback and they couldn't do anything.
And 16 touchdowns.
Okay.
You mean they had a quarterback whose record as a starter was basically the same as the current quarterback?
Oh, wow.
That one, yes.
You said you wanted a short podcast, and here you are just digging.
I'm just throwing out. You're just the one. You're the one who took a shot at Jay Fiedler, not me.
I'm just saying. They ran the ball. All right, one of the top 3 seasons in running back history. Obviously, Raheem fell off a little bit last year, fell out of favor.
A little bit? Dude, seriously?
This was a move that Raheem saw the writing on the wall. I don't know what happened with the organization. he fell out of favor. Him and Mikey clearly weren't on the same accord, and it cost him his job. Or are you in the category of Raheem just got old on us all of a sudden?
He didn't get old, but if you saw his contract last year, it was always based on the fact it was an easy cut to get a $2.9 million in cap space, and then they draft Jalen Wright to go along with Devon Achane. It was always, to me, he better have a really, really good season to give the Dolphins no choice but to keep him. Otherwise, he's done. And then injuries were an issue. He had the 2 fumbles in Indy and in Buffalo, which were very big. And then he he wound up at the bottom of the depth chart almost. And then his yards per carry average went from 4.8 to 3.3. Bad combination. So it was like, I wrote all along with once the end of the season started, it might as well, it's practically a done deal.
Yeah, that was a done deal. So was Durham Smythe. The only one that's a little bit surprising is Kendall Fuller, but this leaves some glaring holes. Now, I don't expect Jeff Fuller to come back. Not Jeff Fuller, Jeff Wilson to come back. Are you in the camp that Jeff Wilson is coming back, and that I don't even know if they have any other running backs?
They don't. They don't.
Yeah, so we're now adding running back and cornerback and really tight end.
But here's the thing. Well, I'm not sure they're going to make a move at tight end again because they have so many needs, and they have 4 guys. Tanner Connor, Hayden.
You really on Tanner Connor and Hayden Rucci?
Yeah, really? They have a clear number 1, Jonnu Smith. They have Julian Hill as a backup. Again, considering all the
you
other,
you can make it through the season. I hear what you're saying. You can absolutely make it through the season.
Here's the thing I would tell you, though. I didn't expect Jeff Wilson to re-sign with the Dolphins last year when he was a free agent also, because he wasn't a major factor in 2023.
He wasn't a free agent. He got shaken down. Yes, he did. He got.
You know what? As we're talking, I'm going to look at it.
He was an easy cut, and then he took a pay cut, and he got shaken down. Yes, and Jeff definitely wants an opportunity to play. That's very transparent. There are a number of things that it'll be interesting to see if he can get. Yes.
March 15th, player became an unrestricted free agent. March 16th, re-signed unrestricted free agent.
In 2024?
Sorry, in 2023. I'm sorry, that's the one I meant that when he re-signed. But he was under contract last year.
Yeah, he was a kind of 1,000-yard player in 2023, not necessarily all for the Dolphins, but we're arguing semantics. Jeff Wilson, I like him because he's a security blanket. Right now, you got nothing. You got Devon, you got Devon, and then Jalen Wright. You got needs at quarterback. You got needs at running back. I'll give it to you. I'll agree with you and say you don't have desperate need at tight end. You got need at offensive line, both tackle and guard. Probably the only position you're good at is center. You definitely got need at defensive tackle. And if you think that Zach Sieler's coming back here without a raise or going to allow you to shake him down or going to allow you to restructure his contract without adding a year and some money to it, you are clueless. You got need at inside linebacker. You got need at outside linebacker. You got need at safety because you got none on the roster. And you got need now at cornerback because of the release of Fuller. So what next, Poupart? Where do we go from here? Is the bloodshed done? Is this the bloody Valentine's Day? Is it over, or are we going to see more bloodshed?
What was it? The St. Valentine's Day Massacre? The whole thing? Like a little history lesson in Chicago, 1914, whatever the hell it was. Those were the 3. Well, I thought Fuller was in danger as at post June 1st. You make a good point, though, about saving the spot. I thought Fuller was kind of iffy. Mostert and Smythe were really, really logical. Somebody put out there Jason Sanders. I don't see it.
I could see it.
You could see it?
I could see it. The question is, how do you replace him?
Well, that's the thing.
You could get if you like a kicker in the draft. It's a kicker, man. It's a
kicker who was kind of money in the second half of last season. And
all I'm saying is I can see it. I could definitely see a shakedown because if you cut him, and I'm not advocating for anybody's release because really, I don't care. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. But I believe Jason Sanders gets you like $4 million in cap space. And I'm like, you can't ignore $4 million in cap space, especially when that equates to, in my opinion, I'm sorry, 3.3. That equates to you can go get a starting time. Jonnu Smith, I'm sure, was less cap space than that.
Yeah. He was a distressed asset, as they say.
Distressed asset. I never thought.
Jonnu Smith last year, he had been released by Atlanta. It wasn't like
so was a lot of people. They get released. Listen, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed in the next coming 2 weeks of veterans that are cut, even when teams have cap space, because that's just how the NFL does business today. They sort of factor in whether or not your cap space is equivalent to your salary. If it's not, hatchet time.
Yeah, that's a tough one, though. I mean, because it's like, kicker's a luxury until you blow a game because your kicker misses a field goal.
So is long snapper. They made it. They figured it out. They got through. They survived.
Long snapper is not the same thing. Come on, man.
I mean, it could cost you a game. It can cost you points.
How many bad snaps on field goals where the holder couldn't grab? Was there one hopper over his head? Were there? Do you think in the NFL the entire year?
Oh, probably, maybe at the most 5. Probably, yeah.
Of 250 some games.
I'm not arguing with you, which is the argument that I made. Why the hell you drafting a long snapper in the first place?
Okay, because you had 11 picks in 2020 or 10 picks. The only reason.
Yeah. So we can plan on them wasting a pick this year on something useless. No offense to Brandon Fields. Not Brandon Fields. What's his name?
Blake Ferguson.
Yeah. Blake Ferguson. No offense to Blake Ferguson. I get my specialists confused. On that note, Poupart, I think the next step is figuring out how you deal with Teron Armstead, which will probably be next week, and then whether or not you can shake down, huh?
I was going to say number 2 also.
Who?
Number 2.
Oh, yeah. And then figuring out if you can, how you can shake down Bradley Chubb. And then we possibly will visit the Bank of Tua. And on that, there are pros and cons to it. I definitely know which side you sit on. Don't touch the money. Don't touch the deal, because it makes it harder to move on from it.
It's a balancing act of what kind of team do you want to field in 2025 to how long you're going to be tied to QB1. But then there are certain teams who at some point completely bite the bullet, such as the Atlanta Falcons might do this year with Kirk Cousins, such as the Denver Broncos did last year with Russell Wilson. They were like, what was it? What was his cap number last year? Some 39 million.
Both of them were rebuilding teams. That's
the problem. The Dolphins are completely in no man's land. Is they have down the line issues.
They're not rebuilding. They're in desperate mode.
I know.
It'll be interesting to see if Chris Greer, and this is the one thing that I said today, and I kind of stand on this. I don't think I can identify a lot of instances where Chris Greer has made bad decisions, bad draft picks, bad signings, just mismanagement of resources. I can identify a lot of those, but I cannot identify any instances where he has acted desperately. It's a long tenure. I know it's a long tenure.
Would Beckham Jr. be a desperate move?
No, remember Mike McDaniel. That's a Mike McDaniel bag, and they did it after drafting 2 wide receivers, and they did it at their price. Not a desperate move.
Okay, but I mean, you'd have to give me an example around the league of what would constitute a desperate move. Jets Aaron Rodgers, I guess, would be one of those.
Jets Aaron, Jets and Devontae Adams. Buffalo and Von Miller, where you think that's a finishing piece. You offer him $20 million a year salary. We're not in the finishing stage, but we are in the, as Tyreek says, we need to add some dogs to this team. And even the trade, Bradley Chubb is probably, I would argue to you, probably the most desperate move that he's made.
Yep.
And then if they cut him, after 2 years, after giving him the money, after giving up the first round pick, then that would be an acknowledgement. We screwed up, which, you know, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But
yeah, and there was bad luck involved, but that's the risk you take when you giving up those kinds of assets for a big name player.
Yeah. Now the question is, would they rather have the cap space or rather have the player? And we will soon find out next week in regards to Teron Armstead and Bradley Chubb. But this is as the season progresses. We've got combine coming up. We got free agency starting up. We got draft coming up. I actually did my annual story on Pete going out to see Pete Bomarito, and he's training 96 draft prospects. Can you believe 96? Counted up 96. One guy, 2 facilities training 96 prospects. There are only 290 something players invited to the NFL Combine. So
329, but that's just a wild guess.
329. All right. On that note, this is the All Dolphins podcast. We want to thank our guest, Alain Poupart. This is the Dolphins In Depth podcast. We want to thank our guest, Alain Poupart from the All Dolphins podcast, which I'm sure I'll be joining some point next week as a return of the favor. Thank you, Poupart, and thank you, our viewers. And happy spending, Dolphins, because you've got $8 million more to spend. Now you only got to make up 4 more million before you can be cap compliant. Thank you for watching.